This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
And this is Guardian Radio in the AM. I am Catherine Tisnell Mitchell here with my friend C.A. Newry. Happy New Year, sir. I'm thrilled to be in the studio with you. And today we have an exciting and important show. I have the team from the Domestic Violence Unit in with us, and we're going to continue to talk about the solutions that we're looking at as a country combating the violence and crime wave happening. But first, we have a little bit of a romantic and bright spark to kick off our show. We have a cruise ship passenger in by the name of Andy Jameson. He's a British gentleman, and he's trying to get his Valentine in order for next month. It's just a few weeks away. I'm sure you've been getting your school packages. And so I've told him he's allowed 2 minutes because we have a little bit of a love story, a little bit of a pitch he's trying to throw out there. Yes, sir. This is your moment. Mr. Jameson, why would you like to be on the air this morning?
I'm looking for relatives of Sally Giles.
Sally Giles. Who is Sally Giles?
She's the girl I first kissed, or first kissed me. And while we separated and what happened went our very ways, since the last 8 years I've been a widower, I've been looking for her, searching for her high and low, and she may be in the Bahamas, or at least relatives of her may be in the Bahamas. Anybody with the name Sally that is 89, I'm interested in finding.
Well, I mean, this is so exciting. I think everyone in the Bahamas has romantic soul, which is why we continue to live in this island in the sun and believe in it, the best in it. But where did we meet Sally? How old were we when this first kiss happened?
We were about 18 at school together, and we were on a date, and I had that first kiss on that date. And I remember in the music, My Fair Lady, Freddie, when he kissed Eliza, was out of this world. I had that feeling back then. So I want to get it again.
Just to be on the street where she lives, to quote My Fair Lady. I also was raised on Rogers and Hammerstein. So you've flown to be on the island where she lives.
Right.
And hopefully lives. You remember her being from the West Indies? Is that how we found ourselves in the Bahamas?
No, she had a controlling mother. And like my 4 teenage daughters wanted to get away from my controlling, she wanted to get away from her mother, and she said she was going to come to the West Indies.
This could be so romantic for us. If it works out, you have to come back to Guardian Radio, and we have to do a follow-up. But what made Sally so memorable? Why all these decades, loves, children's, and life stories later are we still looking for Sally? Why was she special?
I can't answer that other than she really touched me, and I feel that...
appropriately.
Yeah, and so, I'm just enamored with the memories of her.
My goodness, ladies of the studio and gentlemen here. I mean, if you ever want to have a line to win someone over, tell them that decades after their kiss, you still remembered them. I thank you so much for sharing that. Everyone sitting here has a smile on their face. And I think as we roll into the romance of next month, this is something that is truly beautiful. So thank you so much, sir. We are going to be moving on to take care of our other segment of the show now, but if we could go quickly to a break. If anyone knows an 89-year-old Sally Giles, please call Guardian Radio. We'll be back with those numbers shortly.
Always on the go? Missed the show? You can now listen to Guardian Radio talk shows anytime, anywhere on Spotify and YouTube by searching Guardian Radio 96.9 FM or by entering the name of your favorite show. You can also listen by logging on to GuardianTalkRadio.com and clicking on the podcast tab. Guardian Radio, continuing to provide you with fresh news and smart talk anywhere, anytime, all day.
Love the show? Want to give your support? Become a sponsor today. Call 302-2300 for our rates and packages. That's 302-2300. Become a sponsor on Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM.
And we are back. It's Guardian Radio in the AM, and I am honored to be here with the participants and leaders of the Domestic Violence Task Force here in the Bahamas. I just need to start off by saying I truly am, we are privileged to have you in the studio. I've been touched by the work that I've heard that has been happening in your unit, and I know that the officers here, you know we like to talk about our police, but the officers here are people that are called to serve, to help, to heal that which is the violent culture that seems to be taking over our headlines, putting travel warnings across the globe against the Bahamas. These are the people here saying, how can we find the solutions? How can we help? How can we heal? So I'd like everyone to introduce themselves with a little bit of a couple of lines of their background. But we are here with ASP Kendra Wims.
A pleasant good morning.
A pleasant good morning, who I've heard speak on many occasions, and I'm well acquainted with her work. We're here with Sergeant McGregor, W.C. Fox, and Corporal Sand. So thank you so much. A few of you I have met on different occasions, but it's always good to have everyone together in this studio. Would you mind going around and just saying a couple of lines of who you are and what you do in the force?
A pleasant good morning. I am ASP Wims, Kendra Wims. I'm attached to the Domestic Violence Task Force unit. Prior to me being transferred into the unit, I was the Family Liaison Officer for the Criminal Investigation Department under the Royal Bahamas Police Force. Additionally, prior to my working as a police officer, I was a social worker attached to the Department of Rehabilitative Welfare Services. So my wealth of knowledge in terms of domestic violence and violence holistically is very vast, but I am so happy to be here.
And I want to say personally, you're a mom. You're a
Yes,
wife.
I am.
You're somebody that comes with heart to this job, and the fact that you come from a social service background gives you an insight to the hurting culture that drove you towards the police force to help find solutions. Welcome. You know I love you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. I am Woman Constable Danielle Fox. I have been on the police force for about 2 years now, where I am attached to.
Yes, just keep speaking into the mic. You're doing well.
Where I'm attached to the domestic violence unit. I have been attached to the domestic violence unit for 6 months now. Other than that, I am a vibrant soul.
With a beautiful smile. It's lovely to see a young Bahamian woman in the police force, and again, called to be a part of our police force. Because if you have these cases that you're dealing with, there's these sorts of faces that you would want to walk in and have meet you on the other side of your hurt and trauma. Yes, sir, we have met at the Ramfley homes during the time of Dorian.
Good morning. I'm Corporal Terrell Sands. I'm one of the most recent members of the Domestic Violence Unit. I spent most of my 12 years in the force at the outstations, kind of dealing with the public face to face. I also did a small, at the time, as a school liaison officer. What can I say?
He's a tough cop with a soft touch. That's why they keep sending him to places like Ranfully and dealing with the children in cases that need a man with emotional intelligence and courage. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I am Sergeant McGregor. I am a part of the Domestic Violence Unit. Prior to being in the Domestic Violence Unit, I would have spent 5 years working as the Neighborhood Liaison Officer, and my role there was to bring the public and the police closer together in relationship and trying to combat the crimes and the social ills of the Bahamas.
Now, I'm not saying that any of this is true, but it's sometimes seen that police force lack people skills. Anyone that's gone into a station at some point and walked away with an experience that says, oh, I don't know how that went, this is a curated team that they say, we're going to get our best and our brightest, those that know how to hold hands and hearts as well as deal with the political protocols and put them together so we can deal with that, what I think might be one of the most hurtful crimes that is happening in the country today. Now, I want us to talk about some of the solutions, some of the positive and hopeful things that is happening within the police work and the new domestic task force initiatives that are going forward. But I heard you on your panel last night. Anyone who's listened to the radio all week knows that we're talking about violence. We're talking about the murder rates. We're talking about where these are beginning, and is it starting in the home? Where does this dial back from? And so, to our ASP WIMS, I again on your panel last night, it was asked, what is this domestic violence? How would you define it?
Well, the domestic violence, if I would describe it, it's not only physical violence, but it has something to do with also emotional violence, mental, verbal abuse, as well as psychological abuse, and even in some extent, spiritual abuse as well. Mm-hmm. So a lot of persons may seem as if, or they think that domestic violence only is physical, but actually it's not. That mental and emotional abuse goes far reach. And a lot of time, because persons don't understand the definition of domestic violence, then they say, oh, if I get beat, that doesn't mean that I'm being abused in any which way, especially a woman who doesn't understand what the level or what the cycle of abuse is. Because a woman would leave nearly up to nine times before she actually leave. And what one unique thing is with this unit, which was amalgamated by the Commission of Police in 2022, is actually to sensitize the members of the public exactly what domestic violence really entails. And that it actually is our mandate and has been our mandate from 2022 from 2023 to present. So what are we looking at? How do we engage members of the public to actually be knowledgeable of what domestic violence is? And that's through the constant training that we have put in place over the span of a year. So now victims can know that they can report a matter of domestic violence in a safe space. And that's what's really important, especially confidentiality. So in this unit, we assist victim holistically, not only the victims, but the children, and even in some extension, even the perpetrator in some degree, if they can be assisted. So this unit is just not based with police officers. We also have other organizations attached to this unit as well that plays a pivotal role in actually reaching persons within the community. We have persons from the Crisis Center as well as social services. Mm-hmm. We also have the Greek Orthodox Church, We also have other religious sectors as well. We also have nonprofit organization like Women United as well, who plays a important role as well.
There's other NGOs that have partnered with you. I just want to stop you there for a moment. Now, I know that the parts of this initiative are relatively new. You said over the course of the last year. Anyone who's been following the news on domestic violence can see that there's been an upkick in reported cases. Mm-hmm. And I know there's ongoing discussion whether or not that means there's more violence happening in lockdown and pandemic, or whether or not people are just now having the courage and knowledge to step forward. Mm-hmm. Last night on the panel, you said, and anyone else can chime in, you described it as an umbrella. You said, and you described it as a disease, something insidious, but that if violence is happening within the home, and we have a gentleman on the panel, but we said it's not necessarily always towards women, but predominantly the reported cases have been towards women and children in the home. If violence is happening in the home, is that, this has been asked before, but is that the indicator or the cause of what we're seeing on our streets and in our schools and out there in broad daylight happening? Is that why we're being gunned down in broad daylight?
When you look at history, and if you go back to generational, you will find that there has been some level of abuse in the home. And abuse, and in terms of domestic violence, is a learned behavior. So if children are reared in homes where abuse exists, more than likely, or if you look at percentage-wise, there's a probability that those children in the home, whether it be a male, may actually grow up to be a perpetrator, and the female a victim. Now that is something that really needs to be you really need to pay attention to, because what is normal to one person isn't normal to someone else. Because if a child is reared in a home with violence, they think that is normal, and then more than likely they will grow up to be a violent individual. So you have to look deeper into the home, and yes, I say that it actually goes back to the home structure.
So one of the questions I want to ask is, you said generational there, and I'd like someone else on the panel to to brave up to the microphone on this one. Do we, and this is again a question, is that do we have a higher tolerance as a culture for this type of violence? Or are we just able to coexist within the home space? I've been on this radio talking about marital rape, and half the calls are saying that marriage is sacred, but is marriage always safe? That the home is a haven, but is the home for some hell? Are we just as a culture more tolerant of violence within the home?
I would say this, we are more, as a culture, we are more tolerant of the violence within the home, because in looking at our grandparents, a grandmother would say to her daughter, you don't leave. Don't leave the home because, you have invested in the property. Don't allow another woman to come in and take your place or take your space. So when a woman realizes that she doesn't have nowhere to go, then it goes back to say, my mother went through it. My grandmother went through it, and they stayed. And look at them. They appear to be well. They appear to be successful. So I think more so it when it comes to domestic violence, it's a cultural thing. And I think that's something that we are prone ourselves to and become accustomed to it.
Now, Corporal Sands, I'm so glad I have a man in here, because whenever any things like this come up, I have 1,000 men calling and saying, okay, liberated Jezebel, how dare you take away the last bastion of power within the home. Yes, they said it. And they're calling up and saying, in any way you're trying to mandate, legislate, or step into a man's role of the home, you're taking away the sacred Christian right of them to rule, govern, and lead as a head of the household. What's your take as a male on this issue? Where do we draw the line of what's right and wrong, and how do we educate our population of what abuse even looks like?
Well, the line should be drawn at any form of abuse. To be a man doesn't mean that you have to impose your will on somebody. It's just a matter of being a presence, a force in that home for the betterment and support of everyone in that home. So in terms of,
You're a protector, not a perpetrator.
Exactly.
And having seen you in action, I know that you behave in a way that you have strength under control. And I appreciate that is what we would encourage within our masculine culture. And so it's so good to see you on this task force. I'm so happy to have you here. As far as when we're talking about it, saying, so I think that we've all heard and talked back and forth about, so what's happening with the culture? What is the cause? What is the root of it? Most people would agree that a healthy home leads to a better chance of healthy citizenship. With my role in Ramfully Homes for Children for almost 15 years now, we inherit a lot of these children from this abuse cases. And in many cases, it's not that both parents are abusive, but one parent simply can't cope without the support. I think that going forward, one of your goals is creating infrastructure so that there can be support with people trying to leave, trying to exit a dark situation and find light and hope. So can we talk to where we're going with that? We have a physical building on the rise. With someone I would like to hear from our neighborhood policing.
Yes, we have a building on the rise. We are still in the renovation stage of getting that building on to go, which will be opening soon to the public, where they can come and be able to report their matters in a safe space.
Okay, so this is a new initiative that's happening. I really want us to talk about this because, again, one of the things that came up is saying there's a lot of people, a lot of legislation on the books, but are the police actually doing their job? And I would say that everyone in front of me is doing their job with great insomnia, great expense of their personal lives at time. I think we have a call that we can go ahead and take in at some point, please. And that there is a lot of heart here, but this is a solid solution we'll be talking about. We're going to go quickly over to a caller. Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning. I would just like to cite some interest that was written by a letter that was written by Clement Butler.
Yes.
Where he actually highlighted this whole thing about crime has to do with being poor and in poverty.
Mm-hmm.
And there seems to be a correlation between those who are poor and in poverty with this low level of crime. I don't mean persons like me who could do high-level movement of funds from your account to my account. Talking about the shooting of individuals randomly because we are upset. And he cited a move that I think it was what Rogers made with the Pirates. He just gave them some land pardoned all of their sins, all the murders that they did on the sea, all the raping and pillaging that they did, gave them some land and said, look, you'll be pardoned now, so go ahead and build a new life. For some reason, that's where they talk about pilots expelled and the restoration, all that. So for some reason, it appears as though we are trapped in this little corner where there's clutter, and we don't have an escape because every night you hear voices, you're trying to sleep, right? And sometimes the voices, you don't understand what they're saying. So you clutter actually brings this conflict. Is there any way that we could address the clutter that we are looking at in our community? Because, I'm hanging people and, they just tried this nitrogen thing a couple of days ago. That is kind of difficult.
You know, it's interesting. We've just passed. Thank you so much for your call, sir.
Okay.
And I think I'm familiar with the letter that you're talking about. But also, I really appreciate you calling me because we've just passed Martin Luther King Day, the Honorable, and he, of course, had many speeches and many quotes on the fact that poverty was the ultimate evil, that poverty removed choices, educations, and the luxury of having healthy and relationships within the home. And so I think that's absolutely an important conversation to have going forward. In the conversations we've had about domestic abuse in particular, you have said that what is tragic and fascinating about it is that it doesn't not exist just because you live behind gates, just because you have a larger bank account, that it doesn't act without prejudice, that I think you even said there's lawyers, judges, first ladies, people of all walks of life that have been in situations in which they've had to escape. And there's so many deterrents that stop people from coming in and seeking help. But financially, it's a huge one, right? If you're like, if I leave here, how am I going to feed my children? If I leave here, how am I going to get them to school over the next month? I mean, you're leaving your breadwinner. And that's one of the things that makes women fearful. Am I right? Let's hear from our young lady over here. You're doing well. And the fact that, again, a young woman is in this position gives me great heart, because I imagine the children coming into the center, seeing your smile and feeling that there must be a great deal of encouragement there. We have another call. Let me go ahead over to the call first, and then we'll give you a moment on that question.
Okay.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, my dear. How you doing?
All the better after hearing your voice.
Yeah, I appreciate you. I doing a good show. Good morning to the officers.
Good morning.
Yeah,
You're being greeted, officers.
Pardon me?
They're being politely smiling and nodding at you.
You're familiar with Pacific Garden in Chicago?
Tell me what you'd like me to be familiar with.
Pacific Garden is a religious outreach that catered to every facet of the need. It's down in Chicago. You could probably Google it. I would like to see that program over here because Pacific Garden deal with family, deal with the homeless, deal with the everything in one. That could be placed on one of the islands. A big concept where that woman who going through domestic violence, some women are afraid their husband going to be violent. You can move them there until they catch themselves. Need you to Google it. I also love to see that program over here.
Okay, well, actually, you're ahead of your times and right on time. Thank you so much for your call. We're going to speak to your point right now. I appreciate you calling in.
No problem.
You're a man ahead of your times, because that is one of the answers that this task force is trying to come up with right now, is that they're trying to find a safe space. I think it was Senator Barnett who was on the radio earlier this week, and they were talking about the prison issue, and she said, well, and complimenting Canada, she said, well, Canada has invested heavily in its institutions in order to have them cope. And here we have an investment. Now, I don't want y'all to leave here without us talking about this particular project that is in the works, because you need community partnership for it to be successful. And I want you to find the right matches for that. So let's talk about the Domestic Violence Units Task Force building. What is the official name for it? What its function will be, and why it is necessary and imperative to put in place right now.
The function of the Domestic Violence Task Force Unit is to allow victims to come into the building to actually report their matters in a safe space.
So sorry, just to clarify, there is a building being put up and outfitted now that will serve as a one-stop shop that the task force will work out of. I'm not interrupting you again. Go ahead.
Yes, this is a one-stop shop which consists of a number of organizations also a part of this unit as well. Externally, such as the Crisis Center, social services, the judicial system, counseling, as well as psychiatrists, agencies, not excluding the nonprofit organization, as well as the church. Now, with this one-stop shop, will allow persons to come into the unit and report their matters in a safe space. Not only will they be able to report their matters, but also if they seek safety, it will also allow them to have a safe space or a temporary housing for a short period of time until they can actually catch themselves. Eventually, if they need additional housing, then we have other avenues, other stakeholders who will be able to assist in that regard. Now, as well as the children, we also have children who is also a part of domestic violence as well. So we also have partnership with the Ministry of Education to assist children, especially when they have to go to school dealing with situations as this. So we have an all-inclusive one-stop shop that assists with the entire family needs.
And why I think this is important is, again, a lot of people leaving these situations are leaving in a very, with great courage, but leaving with a great fear, great instability. And before would have to go through processes like having separate medical treatment, finding legal counsel for elsewhere, hoping for counseling or a safe space for their children in all different areas. And it feels like a giant octopus wielding its legs. And so now you're putting together a building that will have a nurse's suite, that will have a legal suite, that will have counseling resources, that will have a safe space for the children to be held in as their parents are being interviewed and assisted, that will have some residential element and kitchen so that if they need housing for a little while they get set up in career, they can do so. And again, so that if there's a parent that is able to cope with assistance, they can do so without their children necessarily having to be funneled into the social services systems and placed in a home, that they can keep families together as far as possible. I do have a couple of texts come in that I'd like y'all, the group to answer here. My mom said, stop saying y'all. Please note that 70% of Bahamian families are run by single mothers. Please note that this is the major issue of our country. It's single mothers. We're focusing on the wrong thing relating to the majority of our crimes. Do you think there's any truth in this? In your experience, you have social service, you have police work. Or are we dealing with a single parenting households being the most problematic?
I think there's some truth to that message. However, each case is unique because you have some households with single mothers where they raise productive citizens, never been arrested, never been in contact with police. So I think you have to look at it by a case-by-case basis. You can't just kind of blanket everyone with that same statement.
Yep. And I will say that as mothers, I'm sure we know tons of single mothers that put their best foot forward, that try harder, that hustle harder, that make sure their children are at school with their homework done and their hair brushed every day. And so I think that it's important that we continue to support them. We actually have two calls on the line, so we're going to go over to our first one quickly. Good morning, you're on the air.
Hello.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Could I get on, please?
You're on the air. How can we listen? How can we hear you today?
Okay. Sorry, ma'am. I dialed the wrong talk show. My bad. Sorry.
We're so happy to hear you in any case. Thank you. Good morning. You're on. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yes. Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm well. Thank you.
The partner. Yeah. You know, this is a great interesting topic. You know, given the fact that I am socially diverse. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Went to private school, went to government school, live out east, live in the inner city.
Yes.
And so what the gentleman, what he's naive about, he said a case-by-case basis. I mean, I can't agree with that because what I'm saying is if you quantify or like C. Allen says, datify, you will find out that what I'm observing here in the inner city is the stress placed on the single mothers in the home. So I'm able to juxtapose poverty with delinquency. You understand what I'm saying, miss? So then the numbers is what count. Because in the inner city, you have a lot of single mothers. Yes, some of them endeavor. But the majority of them falls short because you see the children roaming all hours of the day. Some of them work 2 jobs, 1 job, they work shifts. So this is what I'm seeing. So it's a naive statement, and you say in case-by-case basis, when I'm telling you, but the predominant problem with the delinquency exists within the inner city because lack of funds. They don't have the money to pay for this, like extra school curricular activities and all. You understand? This is what I'm saying. So I can't agree with that. That's what I'm saying. It actually, you must juxtapose it with poverty. When they talk, the lady, the text who texts you, and she juxtaposes it with crime. And that's what I'm seeing. The children are being neglected. They're being abused and all. This is going on. I'm seeing it. I'm on the ground. Bless.
No, thank you so much. I think that's a really important point. Corporal Sands, would you like to respond to that? What I think you could go ahead.
No, what I want to say is, as I said earlier, I did not disagree with what the text just said. There is truth to it. Working in certain areas, this is a reality because you see it. But at the same time, my purpose is just not to discredit, but to kind of encourage those mothers who are endeavoring, who are still doing what they have to do, whether it's 2 jobs or 3 jobs, they find a way to provide a good, safe home situation and to raise good, productive citizens. But that does not excuse that what Gentleman said is correct, as well as the texter.
And I think there's an unholy trinity that holds hands in these situations, that people are always trying to say this, it's not violence, it's poverty, but the poverty is because of this, and that the broken family is because of this. And one point was made in a conversation yesterday, because it was listened to, that this happens behind gated communities too, but it said poverty removes choices. Poverty says that you're already in prison even though you're at home and free. And that again, this is one of the answers of this building. It's saying, if you feel financially unable to leave, we're going to guarantee, and you say often that people will show up with a suitcase. Sometimes they're sleeping in cars. Sometimes they literally will walk into an office with all their children in tow and have no choices left. So this new initiative is to provide more choices. Is that right in saying?
Yes, it is to provide more choices. And just to respond to the caller that just called in, I was a single mother for years with my first son. So I know what it is to struggle. I know what it is not to have. I know what it is not to know where the next dollar or where the next meal is coming from. So I lived that life, what a single mother have lived. I walked that road, and I totally understand. And that is why this unit will work, especially for those who don't have it, especially for those mothers who are single, especially for those mothers who are married and single within their marriages as well. Because we cannot just zoom in on single women. We have to look at it holistically, because we have women in relationships who are also hurting, especially when it comes to domestic violence. When a perpetrator takes away their safety net, whether it be finances, whether it be shelter, what is left for a woman to do when she leaves? The first thing she thinks about, she has to stay, because this is her only way of getting the means to eat, to feed her children, to take care of her children, to take care of herself. But now this unit assists with that. It gives these women options. So when they come in, we have agencies who will be able to assist them and their children in providing a safe space for them. So no longer is the excuse is, I have nowhere to go. I don't know what to do. I don't know what my next avenue or what next avenue I will take. We are here. We are very professional. We are very confidential. We are here to actually steer them in the right direction. And that is why this unit exists. Not just police officers, but you have all the relevant agencies who is actually here to assist the family holistically.
Okay, and I have another text I want to go to. You speak with such passion, it literally brings tears to my eyes, because you are who I would hope would exist in this unit. And I actually have 2 questions I want to ask. One, I've heard you asked before, and I've heard you answer before, but I still need to ask it on behalf of all the men in our life. We have Dave Williams comes in here all the time advocating for the health of men in our country. There are cases in which men are also suffering from abuse and violence within the home and oppression. But is this something you see, or is this something that will go unreported because of cultural issues?
Because of cultural issues, you wouldn't see it as much as women who report some matters. You find that men are very reluctant to report matters of abuse because of various reasons. And it has to do with how they will be looked upon, how the police would treat them, or how they will be looked upon about their families and their friends.
It's a shame thing.
It is a shame.
You're not a man if you have a
It is
woman.
shame.
If a woman's beating you up at home, you're not a man.
Yes. So that stereotype within itself, a man will prefer staying in that situation and suffer in silence. They will suffer in silence. But I've seen cases reported to the unit, men in particular, who is crying out for help. And they said they can't take it any longer. They just need the help. And now we are a unit who don't run people. We don't run nobody, regardless of gender, regardless of color, regardless of religion. We are here to assist all.
Okay, and I want to just ask one more question for people who are listening now. Somebody asked, is there a court specifically for domestic violence? But before you answer that, I want to say, if you're listening to the show today, if you're in a toxic situation, if you're maybe unsure psychologically, even if you are being abused, what is the first right step? What is the first thing you should be doing today to begin your process of extracting yourself from this issue?
First of all, what you have to do is report the matter to the police. Even if you're
Are we picking up a phone? Are we walking into an office? What are we doing?
You can walk to my office, the office on police headquarters, the domestic violence unit, or any police station, any nearest police station, and make the complaint. Once you make the complaint, we will ensure that your complaint is carried through to the fullest. We will make sure that the victims and the family receive the closure that they desire. Now, no matter what the abuse is, they don't have to be ashamed. They don't have to be disgraced. They don't have to feel that they are a failure, because there's so many reasons why persons in general are reluctant to report the matters. But I just want everyone who is listening to me today, you have a safe avenue to report the matters, your matter, in terms of any domestic case. Even if you need advice, just come to the domestic violence unit and we'll be able to assist you and even steer you in the right direction. Whatever it is, whether it be, if you don't want to make a criminal complaint and you just want a protection order, you just want this person to stay away from you for a period of time, we can assist you in preparing that protection order. We can assist you in showing you how to get to the court system and getting the assistance that you need.
Because it's difficult. It's difficult to step out of the comfort of a home and into the uncertainty of what the processes may be, knowing you may be homeless and you might be cut off for an entire family. It's interesting that I've gotten so many texts pointing to the fact that single mothers are to be linked to this. And I don't know if this tends towards a misogynistic nature within our country, that we have to blame a woman or not ask the question is, why are these women being left single and without the men in their lives? But I know that would be me being emoting on the subject. But I would like to ask now, what would you like to see happen in support of this positive step forward? Who are you asking to step forward and help you? Would anyone else like to speak on this? We have a beautiful young lady here. You're part of this special new initiative in our country. When you tell your daughters what you did initially, you will have been a nation builder and a history maker. You have such a lovely smile. What would you like to see? And when we interview you again in a year, what do you want to say the growth has been?
I would like to see more. I would like to see more people coming into our unit and getting the assistance that they need. And I really would like to see more victims coming back as well. When I do follow-ups, I would like to hear more good news, that they're on their feet, that everything is going fine now. I would like to see that more.
I think one of the things that's interesting is the questions on and quoting how many, statistically how many people come from single homes, statistically how many people are in a poverty bracket or middle class or very wealthy bracket. Why is it so hard to get statistics on this? When I was researching for the show, I was Googling, I was looking, I was getting reports. Is it because we think so many of these cases are unreported, or why is it hard to mine out the truth of what these causes are? Because we all sound like we're trying to find someone to blame here.
That's a very good question. You find with even the cases of poverty or even persons who may need assistance as it relates to any case, in particular violence in general, I'm not even going to focus just on domestic violence. Mm-hmm. It's because these cases are underreported, not only locally but also internationally. You find that a lot of persons are reluctant to report cases of domestic violence because of fear or retaliation, or because they are so dependent on the perpetrator that they don't want to lose that safe haven, that safety net for them and their children. It always goes back to the women who may be, of course, single in our community. And for years, you have cases where women are single in our community. Even when I was a social worker, even when I used to go into the community and walk the streets and engage with women who were abused and single mothers for whatever reason why they were single. But you have a lot of it now would focus on empowerment of these women, which is very important.
Sorry to interrupt you. I was watching Junior Junkanoo last night, and I think we all needed to watch that because we're reading the news, the headlines. We're seeing that the U.S. Embassy has put out a travel warning against us as a country. We're hearing all of the bad news over and over again. And then you watch Junior Junkanoo, and you're like, there we are. There's our spirit. There's our culture. That's why it's the best country in the world. That's why we punch above our weight. And everyone in this room is born here, good dead here. We're not going anywhere. We want to continue to nation build in a way that's positive, and we want to continue a journey of growth and healing. That there's historical trauma that comes with the growth of any nation is taken, but you all are parts of the solution here. I think some people are getting a little comfortable behind their mics, so I want us to tuck up and say that what is your why? What is your reason why you get up and do this and answer your WhatsApps and show up to work? What are you hoping that we will see come from this ongoing, often thankless, highly criticized effort?
Well, the reason I get up and come to work and to do what I do is to see people get the necessary help they need, to see more victims become stable, to see them stand on their feet, and to be able to say that they overcame. They are not only a victim anymore, but they are a survivor. To see less domestic matters being reported, because there are too much, I would say, too much of domestic matters go on that is not being reported. You see a lot of people hurting, so I want to be a source of help in some way to help them get over whatever they're going through at the particular time they're going through.
They say 101 in journalism, they say never give away your microphone. But I think that what you're all doing here is trying to give the microphone to the people that need the voice, to say, here, you as the victim deserve to be heard. So let's switch on your mic. Let's give you a voice. Let's invite you into a safe space where you can have your stories said, because, your secrets are your sickness, right? That's what that said in so much talk. Yes, what is your why? I mean, you're sitting up here being called naive, getting called all kind of names, like all kind of bad, and you're here with being the man selected for this task force, which must have mean that your empathy has shown through your uniform. What's your why?
Well, my why is because I have children, right? I have two sons. And again, the narrative surrounding men in domestic violence is always negative. We're always the perpetrators. So my why is to just create, if only a little bit of change. If I could change one person, change one mind, because as Ms. Wim said earlier, in a lot of instances, if we can, we have the perpetrators as well, because they go on to have other relationships in the future. So it doesn't just stop at just one situation. So if we can help them to be better individuals, then that helps to end the cycle. So I try to do this to show my sons, lead by example. This is how you do this. This is what you don't do.
And how many sons do you have?
I have two sons.
I want to call their names on the radio. I'm so glad to see that a man like you is fathering sons for our future. As a woman with a daughter and a son that came out of my body, I have all my Ramfully children too, I'm happy to know that someone like you is fathering the future of our nation. I don't want the show to go without us talking a little bit about the nuts and bolts of what is needed to make your program a success. There is a building. I think the address will be announced as needed in the future, but there's lots of, I've had the honor of visiting there with our our First Lady and some notable members of the community that want to contribute to the outfitting of the space. It's a beautiful building with a lot of little rooms that can be taken on as a corporate project if you are part of a sorority, fraternity, a Rotary, someone who wants to step up, a school group that would be interested in outfitting one of these projects. It's doable. My church, the Greek Orthodox Church, has taken on to do the children holding room, which will involve bean bags and rugs and books and toys. And we have so quickly had an outpouring of support because people want to be part of the solution. If you're listening to this show and you're interested in being part of the solution, please do not hesitate to reach out to Guardian Radio, or I'm going to give you my personal WhatsApp, 422-4662. My name is Catherine. You can WhatsApp and say, I'm interested. Can you give me more information? I won't give away the good police officer's number at this time, but you can reach out to Guardian Radio and have your name left here, because we as a community have to support. We have to partake. Yes, we need to invest, but you notice I haven't once said the government in this show, because I'm like, this is a social responsibility. We are we. When one of us go down, the country is hurt. The fabric of the nation is torn. So it's our job to stitch ourselves together to continue to be the beautiful quilt that is our Bahama land. Again, everyone here isn't leaving. We're looking forward. We're believing in the march on journey and the positive, healthy future for ourselves. But healing is imperative. The need to help that, to aid that which is sick within our culture is necessary. Add family homes for children, which I've said many times on this show. Our goal is not necessarily to have happy childhoods, because that's not always the luxury you can have, but to have constructive, contributing citizens. That's what this program is doing here. Anything else you want to say? Is there a story you want to share? Is there something you said? I'd love to leave this on the air with you today as we sign off on this happy, hopeful, positive, productive Friday.
I just want to say it was a pleasure to be here today, and all the listeners out there in the community, we are absolutely looking for additional partnership from the corporate Bahamas who can assist in this great initiative, not only for victims, but for the Bahamas, not only New Providence. We're looking at the Family Islands as well, who will also benefit from this unit and other units to come extended to the Family Islands as well. So once again, do not suffer in silence. That is over with. We are here now. This building is about to be opened very shortly. The commissioner, I just want to say hello to the commissioner and the top team of the Royal Bahamas Police Force, because if it wasn't for the commissioner of police, we would not be in existence. And I am grateful and very happy for his vision to see this unit through. And he has a big heart. I have to say shout out to him. He has a great heart, and I'm just happy to be here with my officers in sharing this initiative. And once again, please do not suffer in silence. Just let you know that we are here. We are listening ear for you to report any matters in a safe space.
Thank you. Anyone else want to brave the Did we trick y'all into coming in today? Did you think you would just go into court and we made you come on the air?
I just want to say Domestic Violence Unit is located at Police Headquarters on East Street. And our number at the office is 302-8387. That's 302-8387. So like Ms. Wim said, don't suffer in silence. Speak out. It's time that we speak out against domestic violence in the Bahamas. So let's get together, corporate citizens, corporate business, sponsors. We look forward to seeing and hearing from you as we partner together to get rid of domestic violence in the Bahamas.
And is it a privilege to have a project like this that you can engage in, that is effective, that is relatively easy, and that is something you can be proud of, that you've contributed to the nation's growth in this way, that you're being part of the solution again? I have to say to my many, many texters that are concerned and engaged in the issue of the single mothers, this doesn't all fit into the theme of today's show, but we do need to schedule in a show to discuss the plight, the support needed for women and families in this situation. We can talk about the cause of that and the man's responsibility too. But today, I am so honored that you've taken the time from your schedules. I know how much work you must have to continuously do. And I want you to feel the support of your Bahamian public, to know that there are people here that are anxious to help in ways that are truly effective and not just make noise in our with frustration and with sadness when we see the slaughter that is happening on the street with our young people. And to leave on the positive note that there is so much good. There's so many people choosing to fight here. There's so many people who are choosing to spend their working careers in this truly giving and selfless way, because everyone here could have chosen other paths. And I thank you for your expertise and wisdom. Any closing words?
I would like to say to all of the victims or family members of victims, if you know this is going on with you or your family, I urge you to please let them come on down to the domestic violence unit. We are eager to help you. We are eager to get you the assistance and the protection that you need. Please come on down to the domestic violence unit.
Don't beat me for asking this question, but how old are you? I mean, I just am so happy to see a young lady in here.
I'm in my mid-20s, Mom.
Well, Mom, I know. That's so exciting. I got called a girl by one of the first graders at QC the other day. He's like, "Oh, you're the girl that cheered for me at sports day." I'm like, "Yes, I'm a girl. I've been a mom all day. I'm a girl. Yes, I'm the girl that cheered for you." And we're going to keep cheering on our children and our families in this way. I had a text from a friend who said, "Please remember," a friend who's been through some issues, and she said, "Please remember that nobody has to everyone gets to choose their ending of their story. If you're in a situation in which you are enduring hurt, that this doesn't have to be how the story ends. You can rewrite it, that there are good, caring, and loving people out there that can assist you. And I mean, this really should be the PR team for our police force, because not only are they beautiful with their smiles and welcoming spirits, but if I had heartbreak and desperation, this is a team I would want to walk into and trust that they would assist me on moving forward. So I'm so privileged that Guardian Radio gave us this show today. I am thankful that we had the opportunity to talk about something solution-based within the country, and I am grateful for all of you to be a part of our ongoing conversation and growth. I hope we can have you back. I hope you can come back with positive stories of who stepped up to the plates and engaged with us and say, guess what? Ever since that show, look who's come on board. I've had phone calls from people saying, I can't wait to get engaged and involved. So we're looking forward to the opening of this building being on our in our headlines sometime soon. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
I think we're still on the air. I think they're having fun in the producing room. So I will say that, again, if anybody has interest in being involved, please call Guardian Radio and leave your number. I will call you back right away. You can WhatsApp me at 422-4662. My name is Catherine Chisnell Mitchell. I'll be happy to help you coordinate this. Thank you again for your time, your talent, and your ongoing skills, your tremendous skill sets and heart. We appreciate you beyond measure.
It was a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure.